I'm a bit ashamed of what happened last week.
And welcome back to Hoop and Helmets. I'm Brody Jacobson, and as always, joined alongside by my co-host Lucas DeVries, and we'll have a very special guest joining us later today to make his college football game preview picks. But to start it off today, we're going to recap Week 10 of college football, as we always do. We're going to start it off with probably one of the biggest games of the weekend in the 12 o'clock window, in the top 5 matchup between Ohio State and Penn State, where Ohio State was able to come out victorious 20-13. What did you see there?
So I can watch the game, but I know, as you can see from the score, it was low scoring as expected with these Big Ten matchups. I heard that Penn State got stopped on the goal line once in a crucial fourth down, and they had like 4 opportunities to get in. So that's a huge stop from the Ohio State's defense. I just think Ohio State's the better team. Penn State under James Franklin will never get a big win. They just literally never do. Everyone says that about Ryan Day, but I feel like he's better than people give him credit for in these big games. I kind of knew Ohio State was going to get the win. It was at Penn State, which made it a really close game. And Penn State is still a playoff team, but Ohio State, they're ranked 2 right now, and I think that's where they should be.
Yeah, and like you said, they're a playoff team. You know, without that 12th team playoff, if Penn State loses that game, they're probably out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Let's keep it in the Big Ten. Minnesota plays Illinois, and Minnesota had a perfect October as they headed to Illinois to start off November. And again, Darius Taylor, the sophomore running back, he ran wild against Illinois, and Minnesota was able to win that game.
Yeah, so Minnesota, in the month of October and now one game in November, they've been going crazy, actually. They started off with that huge win against USC when they were a top 25 team with that crazy interception in the end zone. And ever since then, they've just been a great football team. And PJ Fleck has saved his job here over the last couple of weeks when he was on the hot seat. And now they're thriving, and they're actually a really good football team. And he'll definitely be getting signed back next year unless something goes insanely wrong.
Yeah, PJ Fleck continues to just win 6 games. I think it's his 4th season in a row where he's been 6-3, something along those lines. Texas Tech upset undefeated Iowa State. Taj Brooks had a good game, and Texas Tech was able to win 23-22.
So Texas Tech's been having a great season, a bit of an under-the-radar season too, because not many people are talking about them. But I think they only have like 2 or 3 losses in a Big 12, which isn't the hardest conference, but it's still tough to get wins. And you just beat Iowa State team who's undefeated under great quarterback play from Rocco Becht, which is a huge win for their program. And I think they're going to keep going in the right direction and maybe have like an 8-4 season and get into a pretty decent bowl game.
Yeah, people don't realize Texas Tech is 6-3 now. They've really been under a bit of a run as of late. Florida traveled to Georgia, and they played Georgia pretty close.
Yeah.
A good 4 quarters from that Billy Napier squad.
Yeah. So Florida, they had DJ Lagway at the beginning of the game. He's a great freshman quarterback, but he got injured and they brought in, I think, some third string. He was from like Yale or something like that. He kind of struggled as expected going against the Georgia defense in your first start. But they really did hang in there in the first half, and I'm a bit surprised. Georgia, Carson Beck, he's an interception machine this year after he threw none last year, which is a bit surprising to me because I thought he was always a good decision maker. But the thing that does show me hope in this Georgia team is he's throwing 4 interceptions a game, and they're still winning every game, including top caliber teams like Texas. That means if he gets it under control, I think they're the national title favorite right now.
Yeah, definitely something to watch in the SEC with all those top teams and the 2-loss teams and the 1-loss teams and whatnot. Pitt, SMU in a big matchup in the ACC, and SMU took care of business, solidifying themselves with a win and control your destiny scenario to close out the ACC season. Them and Miami, they both went out. There's your ACC conference championship right there.
Yeah. So these last 2 games we're going over make me mad, of course. But, so SMU, I think, I didn't watch it, but I think they just dominated Pitt. They were up by 30 at halftime or something crazy like that. And Pitt was undefeated. I know a lot of – I thought SMU was going to win, but I thought it was going to be so much closer than this. If I were a Pitt fan, I'd be a bit ashamed in your first big game going down like this. But Pitt, technically, they're still not out of it. Only 1 loss. But SMU and Miami are definitely in the driver's seat right now to get the ACC title game.
Yeah, and freshman Eli Holstein really struggled. Like, we
Yeah.
hadn't really seen him struggle yet this entire year. And the final game we're going to recap, of course, the Clemson-Louisville primetime game on ESPN. And Lucas had a pretty strong opinion with the film off, the Tiger coming in. But did Clemson take care of business this week?
No. So they were pretty bad. Okay, so I think we kind of got robbed by the refs. We had literally better than them in every single stat of that game. But, I can't be complaining. We still lost the game by, 10 points, and they kind of ran all over our defense. We didn't deserve to win. They were the better team that night. Yeah, it's going to take a miracle for us to get in the playoffs now. It's still possible. We just got to win out, which is still tough. We got Virginia Tech, South Carolina, and Pitt, which are 3 tough teams. But if we do it and we get some luck on our side, it's still possible. So not all my hope is lost yet, but a lot of it is.
Yeah, so that's going to do it for our Week 10 recap of the college football games. We're going to move it on to our spread picks. And this week, Lucas is going to start with his first spread pick.
All right, so I have Georgia -2. They're playing Ole Miss in a big-time matchup this week. So Ole Miss has looked great, but they really only look great against poor opponents. And when they play good opponents, they usually don't show up to their ability. And Georgia usually does, and they're only getting 2 points here. I know it's a great Ole Miss team on the road when their season's on the line, but it's pretty much a pick 'em, and I do think Georgia is going to win. So I picked Georgia to cover that 2-point spread.
Yeah, it's a big game in the SEC. I'm going to start it off with a big game in the Big 12, Colorado. They're ranked. Everybody knows Colorado. I picked Texas.
Yep.
Yep, I picked Texas Tech last week, and I'm going to continue to ride with Taj Brooks. He is one of the top 5 running backs. He's a top 5 running back in college. He's run wild against Big 12 defenses for a second straight year. He was a 1,200-yard rusher last year. And, Texas Tech, they're at home. They can slow this game down. Make Shadur play make. They can win this football game.
Really picking against Shadur and Travis and Shallow? Come on now. If Shadur and Dion attend their mass before the game, they got all trust in God. God's going to get it done. I mean, come on. You can't go against God.
Todd Brooks.
Shadur and Dion have God on their side, though. Back in the Mesopotamian days, people used to believe if something good happens, it's because of God. If something bad happens, God wasn't on their side. And so, yeah, shouldn't have picked that. Anyways, I'm picking Army -3. 3-point spread. Army's won every game by 30 this year. North Texas is a good team. They have Chandler Morris as their quarterback. On the road, if Bryson Daly's healthy, I think they should definitely cover it. But it will still be a tough contest no matter what. So,
Hey, no Bryson Daly there. North Texas is going to win outright. You heard it now.
Wait, you said Bryson Daly's not playing for
No,
sure?
I said if he doesn't go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's definitely possible.
I don't know how that offense can function. They didn't look great against Air Force. So, Minnesota, I've been on them. I think it was my 3rd straight week picking them. And we continue to ride with Darius Taylor. Last year, when he only played 5 games as a freshman, and he ran for, I think, close to 800 yards, I was trying to tell people about him, but nobody seemed to listen. Now they go to Rutgers, who's lost 4 straight at Rutgers. Darius Taylor, again, this is a weak Rutgers run defense. He's going to run wild. They've run him out of the backfield. They run him in the backfield. He gets 50 receiving yards. He's going to get 140 rushing yards, and he's going to score 2 times in the Minnesota win.
Good take there. Okay, so I got NC State. They're playing Duke, and Duke's had a great year for Duke football. Usually focused on basketball season by now. They're playing Army tonight. Hopefully Army can beat them. That would be pretty crazy. But they're playing NC State. NC State hasn't looked good by any means this year, but they had a good win last weekend, and they're at home. And I think they still have more talent than them, and they're only favorites by 3 points. So, again, it's pretty much just a pick-em game, and I think NC State is going up and Duke's going down right now. So that's why I have NC State going to win this game.
SEC primetime, Oklahoma heads to Missouri. Missouri's ranked, and the total in this game is 41.5. You expect a low-scoring game. This game is going to smash the over. Oklahoma to get right game last week. Put Jackson Arnold back in at quarterback. Your running back runs for 3 touchdowns. You win 59-21 over Maine. Now you're playing a Missouri team that's been struggling in their last 2 games. Give me Oklahoma, favored by 3.
Okay, so next game here, I'm going to head to Arizona State +2. See, Arizona State has had a very good year, another sneaky year. So I'm going to give you – so there's 4 teams that came from the Pac-12. Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State. They all went to the Big 12. And 3 of those teams were supposed to be really good this year. Well, Colorado, but they had hype. So Colorado and then Utah and Arizona were like preseason top 20 teams. They did not live up to the hype at all. Colorado has, but another team who has is Arizona State. They didn't really get any, but they're like 6-2 right now. They've been playing great football on those night games out there, and they could sneakily find themselves to maybe like a 9-win season this year. So I'm going to pick them to cover 2-point spread.
Yeah, Camp Scoutable has definitely lived up to the hype. Syracuse, Boston College at 12 o'clock on the CW network. And if you look at Syracuse, probably Kyle McCord's 4-interception game really stands out to you. But last week, they got it done in overtime by 7 points. Now they travel to Boston College, who's been struggling with Thomas Castellanos. And Syracuse is going to take care of business. They're going to win outright, and they're dogs by 2.
All right, so my next game, I have LSU and Bama. And Kalen DeBoer, he does not have his job on the line by any means because Nick Saban didn't have a good first season. But, like, a lot of Alabama fans are upset of what he's doing. So you know what I say. He's definitely going to have his team out here fighting, but I don't think they're going to come out of Baton Rouge with a knockout punch. I think LSU is better, and I think that they just have more of a consistent offense than Bama does. And I think that home field advantage is going to take them over the hump. And they're underdogs by 3 in this game, so I'm going to take that +3 spread. And a lot of these games have actually been decided by 1 point recently, so there might actually be something with that 3 points that could help me out.
Let's keep it with the top 15 team. Miami traveling to Georgia Tech. Miami's favored by 10 points. They're just going to continue to roll. They're just better than the other ACC teams. They're straight up better. There's a reason they're number 4 in the country, and there's a reason people have them as the 3 seed in the college football playoff. They're going to roll against Georgia Tech, and they're going to continue to stay undefeated. And now we're going to move on to our confidences.
Okay, so I got South Carolina. They're favored by 6 here against Vanderbilt, which is actually a very fun matchup considering both of them are 6-3, but they could very well even have way better records. They both have a couple close losses, and they both have huge wins. So it's a very fascinating game in that 4:15 window on the SEC network where you've had a lot of games, great games this year. And South Carolina, they're coming off a huge win against Texas A&M where they just dominated. And Williams-Brice Stadium was electric, kind of as I expected. And Vanderbilt right now, they are also taking care of business in these SEC road games like Kentucky and Auburn, knocked them both off. I think South Carolina is going to cover the 6-point spread. I just think they have way more talent all around. But I'm not going to – this pick might change because I think I might be underestimating Diego Pavia's ability in the Vanderbilt offense.
So my last couple of confidences, I've been wandering from what I should be doing. I should stick to teams that I think are going to win. I've been wandering to non-Power 4 games. I've been wandering to heavy favorites. Last 2 weeks, I've picked teams that have been favored by 3 scores. But this week, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to play the undefeated team. They have to win football games if they want to secure the top 4 seeds, and they have to keep winning because they have to win the Big 12 pretty much to make the playoffs. Who's that, you ask? BYU. They're playing Utah this week, and Utah has been struggling without Cam Rising. Who does BYU have? They have BYU. Jake Retzlaff, the Jewish quarterback. He's played amazing football through his first 9 games, and he's going to continue to roll against Utah, and BYU is going to cruise to victory.
I like that pick a lot there. All right, so now let's bring you on to our Super Dogs real quick. I have Purdue plus 38. Yeah, you heard that right. 38 points. They're playing Ohio State, and Ohio State's a great team, obviously, and they could very well cover that. But I just didn't see many other better options. And there's usually since college football is a great sport, there's usually not that many big spreads, and this is huge. It's almost 40 points. And we've seen Purdue put up fights against teams like Illinois, so I think they'll cover that 38. I'm actually pretty confident there.
Yeah, Lucas took that one for me. So we're going to roll with another team that's getting a big spread. Florida getting 21.5 against Texas. I love it if it's just over 21 because the 3 scores. And Billy Napier this week he's going to be confident as ever getting that extension. We'll say that he's not getting fired by the Florida AD. Florida, Texas, they've been shaky at times. In these SEC games, you never know. Florida could be close in this one.
See, I was going to take that too. But the reason I didn't is because Florida's on like their third string quarterback. But like Texas has been very shaky, and 22 points is an extreme amount. Even if it was like 13, if Florida had their starting quarterback, it would have taken it. But it's still a good pick though, because 22 points is a lot of points.
So now we're going to move into our game previews, and I'm going to introduce our special guest on today, Charlie Dillon. He's a big Wake Forest fan, and he's going to be the first guest picker ever on the Hoop and Helmets podcast. Charlie, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
So we're going to start off on the Friday Night Lights game. This is a big game Charlie's definitely going to like. It's Cal at Wake Forest. Let's start with you, Lucas.
Okay. Honestly, we kind of just put this here for Charlie. I don't have too many opinions. Cal, they beat Auburn, Brody's team, so Charlie's probably hoping Wake Forest can get it done, so then he can brag to Brody about this. I'm pretty certain about that. I do know that Wake Forest quarterback's name is Bachmeier, and Cal's quarterback's name is like Mendoza or something like that. So, yeah, I'll take Wake Forest for Charlie.
Thank you. I'm feeling good about our matchup tonight. I think that Mendoza and the Cal Golden Bears have had a couple great games. They played Miami really tight, 1-point game there, and a big win against Auburn. Not the highest quality opponent, but it's a good win. But tonight I'm looking at Hank Bachmeier. He's gonna take the Cal Golden Bears deep, 300 plus yards, and I got Wake winning outright, money line.
Is that at home for you guys?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Ooh, so you're not in Bear territory.
I think Cal might take care of business there. But let's
Yeah,
move it on
you're
to
not
Saturday. Let's into the 3:30 window. So Georgia heads to Ole Miss. And this is a big game because Ole Miss with their 2 losses, there's a lot of SEC teams with their 2 losses. Even though I believe they are capable of making the playoffs, and they should be in the playoffs, even as a 3-loss team, if they lose it, it's not going to cut it.
No, they should not make it with the 3 losses. They wouldn't have a good win, losing all their big games. But who knows? I mean, maybe if they play Georgia really close, it's possible. But so yeah, Ole Miss is pretty much a ride or die game for them. Huge game at home. All the bright lights are going to be on them. Maybe besides that Bama game this week. And Georgia under Kirby Smart, they don't care about any of this. It's a business trip for them. They're just going in there to take care of business. And Kirby Smart's built some sort of a dynasty over there in Georgia. And I don't think they're going to let this Ole Miss team get to them. I think they're going to get after Jackson Dart, put him under pressure a lot. And Ole Miss will be in some sort of shambles. But Georgia's offense has looked very mid, so I could see it still being a close game.
Yeah, I'm going to go off that. I understand that Georgia's defense has been one of the best in all of college, but I think that Jackson Dart last week put up one of the best performances of the entire season. Carson Beck has been really, really not great.
Against a bad team, though.
Well,
Has
Carson Beck had any good games? He's thrown so many interceptions. He's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the SEC so far.
But is Georgia winning?
They are. But Carson Beck's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the SEC this year.
But if he plays good.
But he hasn't. So if Carson Beck's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the entire SEC this year, I'm going to go with Jackson Dart and the Ole Miss Rebels, who've been just Dart over Carson Beck. I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah, I kind of like Dart over Carson Beck, too. I'm going to agree on that point. So let's keep it in this window. Colorado heads to Texas Tech. This is a big Big 12 game because Colorado's a 2-loss team. They need to keep winning as well. Shadur Sanders?
No.
Deion Sanders? What do you like?
And Shiloh Sanders. And we got Travis. We got LeJontay Wester, the Hail Mary catch, keeping their season alive. We have Jimmy Horn, my guy. Will Sampson, another great wide receiver. There's just way too much talent on their squad. Texas Tech's looking to win another big game, but I think Colorado's going to keep it rolling. They actually have a chance at the playoff here, which would be very exciting. So I'm going to take Colorado.
I'm going to have to agree with Lucas on this one. I mean, Travis Hunter's how dynamic Travis Hunter is going both ways. I think that the pure talent of Colorado is just going to overwhelm Texas Tech in this game.
I'm going to take Texas Tech like I had them in my spread picks. But let's move on to the ACC. Clemson heads to Virginia Tech, and after Clemson's loss, I said there's only one man that can save their season. It's Tyler from Spartanburg. He didn't call Dabble this week. Their season isn't safe.
You still haven't told me who that is.
He's the guy on the radio guy that called Dabble last year.
Oh, yeah. And then he said our stock's going only up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's clearly not true because we just lost last week to Louisville. We got Virginia Tech. So we're going into Enter Sandman this week. Pretty interesting. They're either very bad or very good. I'm really hoping we play the very bad Virginia Tech. And I have no clue if Kyron Drones is healthy. I really hope he's not. Well, I do for his sake. But for Clemson, I really want to say we're going to win this game, but I'm still very nervous. I am not sure at all if we're going to pull it out. But I think if I had to pick one, I say Clemson's going to win.
Yeah, Virginia Tech's been super inconsistent this year. They've had a couple bad losses. Rutgers, but they also have been look really good with once another team having another close loss to Miami. Yep. But overall, I think that Clemson is just a bigger program. They have more talent, and what's their other guy?
Phil Moffitt.
Phil Moffitt. He's chomping on a tiger again. Phil Moffitt's coming out, and Clemson's winning.
Yeah, I feel like Clemson can pull one out. That normally bounces back, but Michigan at Indiana, and I love what Kurt Signetti's doing with this Indiana football program. He's had a few famous quotes in the last few weeks when he says, "Google me."
Indiana, they've looked really good. They haven't played a big team yet, so I haven't really watched any of their games. I guess you could say Michigan's a big team. I don't really think so. They've been really bad this year, but people are saying this is their biggest test yet, so I guess we'll see what happens. But I don't really – and it's at Indiana too. I don't really see a way they lose, to be honest. It would be crazy, though, if they did. That would be a crazy upset, so I'm hoping for it. I'm a big believer in the upsets. I love them.
Yeah, after Jim Harbaugh's left the Michigan program, they not only last year they lost Jim Harbaugh, they lost J.J. McCarthy, they lost Blake Corum. Those are their biggest pieces. This year they don't have a certain starter at quarterback, and it's just been a really challenging year for them. They haven't looked great in practically any of their games. So I think Michigan's losing to Indiana this one.
Yeah, Curtis Rourke's definitely going to take care of business. South Carolina at Vanderbilt, and these teams are pretty much have the same narratives the whole SEC season. Lose close ones, win big ones.
Yep. So we got South Carolina and Vanderbilt. So I'm going to give you guys a quick quarterback rundown for both of these teams because I find it very fascinating that they have very similar players with them. So Lenore Sellers on South Carolina, I see him very similar to a Jalen Milroe. They're both way bigger bodies and can scramble at any time and they get away from pressure. And they both have a bit struggling throwing the ball, but when they have an on day, they're pretty much unstoppable. And then on the other hand, Diego Pavi, I'm going to go way back here. I feel like he's a lot like former SEC player Johnny Manziel. They're very similar, like body types, speed, like craftiness. They just find a way, and they're just dogs out there on the football field. So it will be interesting. But if I had to give my pick, like I said, I think South Carolina's going to win it. They're the more hot team right now.
Yeah, these have been two of the sleepers of the SEC so far this year. Both pull off some really big games. Luckily for Vanderbilt, they are home in this one. South Carolina's got one of the best home environments in all of college football. But I think that Pavia and Vanderbilt team, who's shown the capability to win even bigger games than South Carolina has with their win against Alabama, I think that Vanderbilt, especially at home, has the win here.
And then final game we're going to preview. It's the primetime game. It's the game the whole nation's going to be watching, the whole college football fan base, because it's two-loss teams that if they lose, you're probably out of the college football playoff. Alabama heads to LSU, and the real question is, for me, who do you trust more, Jalen Milroe or Garrett Nussmeier?
Real quick, that was a good analysis by Charlie there. Now that I think about it, South Carolina's on the road. I might end up changing that pick, by the way. But anyways, we get here to Alabama, LSU. I'm a bit ashamed of what happened last week with when I picked Clemson, so I won't be doing anything like that this week. Maybe again next week, but I have to bounce back first. All right, so I said LSU is going to cover that 3-point spread. And this week they're at home against Alabama, which Ole Miss, Alabama, and LSU, all 2-loss SEC teams, all great football teams, but their seasons are probably on the line in these games. It will be very interesting to see what teams come out on top. It's also a huge game for Georgia, as I think they have another tough opponent left on the schedule. They have a really tough schedule this year. So if they get to 2 losses, they could maybe just find their way out of the playoffs. So these SEC games are huge. I think Garrett Nussmeier, if they got momentum going, he is a clutch player. He likes the tough moments. Milrose, inconsistent. And in this tough road environment, I see two options here. Alabama goes out and plays great, takes a big lead, ends up winning this game by like 10 points, where LSU gets the crowd on their side and ends up winning this game like 31-21 or something like that.
Yeah, I think that this, for me, comes down to just a debate of pure talent between Nussmeier and Jalen Milroe. And I'm going to have to take Jalen Milroe every time. He's one of the top prospects coming out of college, especially for the NFL draft next year. And when I have the option, and I don't even think that the home field advantage for LSU is going to be that strong here. Alabama is not that far away from LSU. They got a passionate fan base. They're going to come out for this game. I'm taking Bama here.
Yeah, Milrose
Go against. Did he just throw a slur at Death Valley at night? This guy.
No. Milrose got poised. Well, thanks for being on, Charlie. We're going to definitely remember your picks. Hopefully you do well this week. I wish you good luck. And now we're going to move on to Lucas. He has a big rant towards the first college football playoff rankings of the season.
Okay, so Brody, talk for like 30 more seconds.
So the college football playoff rankings came out earlier this week, and a big storyline I'm looking at right now is it says that the top 5 conference champions get the 1 to 5 seed. So you assume 4 Power 4 champions get the 1 to 4, and that's the buys. But then you assume the top group of 5 will get the 5 seed. Well, something people aren't looking at is Boise State versus the Big 12 right now, because Boise State's just outside of the top 10. And if they are able to win out, their one loss is to Oregon, and it's a slim loss. Oregon's the number 1 team in the country. Oregon keeps winning. Boise State keeps winning. Boise State moves up. If BYU loses, it's a question of Boise State or BYU. And then you get into a situation where a Boise State team could be the 4 seed with the bye. The Big 12 champion could be the 5 seed, not with the bye.
Okay, that's actually a great take, because I thought about that too myself. For some reason, I can't find the bracket, but good thing I have a good memory, and I think I can remember all of the matchups here. So I'm just going to talk about the college football playoff a little bit as we are approaching in a couple of weeks. I'm mainly going to be talking about the teams on the bubble, though, to see how they get in and how they don't. So as we were saying when we were doing our picks, LSU, Bama, and Ole Miss are 3 teams that are great teams. All have 2 losses in huge games this week. I don't think any of them will get in with 3 losses unless chaos happens. But I do think they'll take a 3-loss SEC team like that over a 2-loss SMU team, which will only have 1 loss in the regular season. Say they lose to Miami in the ACC championship, which would be very sad to them, because that's a 3-loss team versus a 1-loss team in the regular season. And SMU's only loss is to BYU, is a great team on the road by 3 points. So that would be very sad to the SMU fan bases, but I do think that's what they would do in that scenario. And also, I feel really bad for Army fans like me, because they got extremely disrespected with that 25 ranking. So that's what the committee is telling you is pretty much they have to win out. I mean, like, if they get 1 loss, even if it's to Notre Dame, they're not going to have a good chance of making it, which is a bit stupid. I feel like maybe they don't, but they should at least be in the conversation. I think if Boise State gets 2 losses and Army gets 1, you have to take Army over them, because Boise State only plays 1 good team, that's Oregon. They played them great, but then they're going to have a loss to a bad team there. Army will take care of business. Unless they get dominated by Notre Dame, I can't imagine you not taking that 1-loss Army team. This is assuming Boise State loses, by the way. So yeah, they're probably not. But if it happens, so Army's going to have to win out, most likely. They're not going to get them with 1 loss. So also another team here. So Notre Dame's in a very interesting spot. I think Notre Dame and Indiana, the 2 teams from Indiana. So I'm going to go over Notre Dame first. They play nobody. Their best teams they play are Army and Navy, except for the first game of the season, which is such a disgrace.
Hey, Louisville to Clemson.
Yeah, they should have lost to Louisville. Louisville wasn't battle tested yet, but Louisville is a good team now that I think about it. But they played Louisville in rainy conditions. They won by like 3 points, and Louisville had literally 200 more yards than them. It just turned over the ball a lot. I think they lose to Louisville in a neutral environment with good weather 70% of the time, actually. Louisville's a great team. But anyways, Notre Dame, they have a loss to NIU, which is obviously the blaring spot of their schedule that's going to haunt them. They have a good win on the road at Texas A&M, first game of the year, but they just got throttled by South Carolina. So I think if Notre Dame wins out, they make the playoff. And I do think they deserve to make the playoff. But there is no way if they get another loss that they should be even in consideration. And I will stand by that. If they get in as a 2-loss college football playoff team, I literally might be done with this. That would make no sense at all. But if they win out, I do think they get in. And then the last teams I'm going to be going over are Indiana and BYU. So Indiana, very similar spot to Notre Dame. They play literally nobody, even though they're in the Big Ten. They play Ohio State, and then nobody else. Michigan isn't good this year. So I think if Indiana gets 1 loss, they should get in. They definitely should get in now that I think about it. But 2-loss Indiana won't get in, and I'll tell you why. Sure, they'll be like Notre Dame. Pretty much they have somewhat of a tough schedule because they play Ohio State. But they're already only ranked like 9 right now. So 1 loss is probably going to take them to like 12 or 13. So there's no way. Wait, now that I think about it, how is Notre Dame ranked like the same number as Indiana? That makes literally no sense at all, considering they both play nobody, but Notre Dame lost to NIU. But whatever. And then BYU, they're the team who I think got the most disrespected because they're undefeated right now with like 3 top 25 wins, including a big win against
the 4 seed.
A big win against SMU. They are the 4 seed right now, but the college football playoff had them ranked, I think, 10 or 9, which is extremely disrespectful. If they had the brand of Ohio State or Alabama, they'd be like number 1 in the country right now. Anyways, I think BYU, if they get 2 losses, they won't get in, and they probably shouldn't, but they have a way better resume than most people think.
So we're going to change it over from the helmet to the hoop. And college basketball, the season started on Monday. And from what I've seen, let's start with the Monday. The Finlay Auto tip-off game. Baylor plays Gonzaga. And we always know the Zags and Mark Few are always ready to go on tip-off. Last year when Auburn played Baylor, Baylor was shaky. They got the win, but barely. They got a few lucky plays in that game to get the win. Gonzaga really took care of business against Baylor. They showed why they are a top team in the country. They won by 40. And it might ask the question is Scott Drew's team and VJ Edgecombe, are these guys really ready to compete in the top 10 yet?
Did you see that poster dunk on his son?
Marcus' son. Yeah, that was funny. And then another big performance I saw was my team and the Auburn Tigers. They won by 51 points over Vermont. And you might say, you played Vermont. Well, they win 25 games every season. They just were coming off an upset against UAB. Their coach was disgusted with their loss. And they're in the tournament every year. And you could say, well, they're not a top mid-major. Well, how come they're a 12 seed? They are a top mid-major every year. And I still think they are a top mid-major. So Auburn really showed they were able to spread the ball. And look at Miles Kelly, the Georgia Tech transfer. He made 7 threes, 5 in a row. Auburn's got a lot of depth again, and they're going to be competing late in March.
Yeah, so speaking of that 7 threes, you should go subscribe to our channel right now and check out some of our recent videos, and you'll see edits and more recaps and stuff, including Brody's edit of Miles Kelly's 7 threes.
So we're going to preview the 3 big 2 top 25 teams matchups of the weekend, and tonight North Carolina heads to Allen Fieldhouse to play Kansas.
Okay, so that's happening in about 30 minutes. And Kansas, maybe the most stacked roster of all time. I'm not even going to lie. Rylan Griffin from Bama, who was a great player last year, I think might be like their 7th guy or something. That team is insane on paper. North Carolina, they got a great backcourt. RJ Davis had a shaky first game, but he closed it out well. Elliot Chadeau can now shoot. That's huge for them. And Seth Trimble is a great player. But their big men is where I think they get shaky. And obviously Kansas is Hunter Dickinson, who Charlie doesn't think is that good of a player. And I kind of agree with him. I think he's a bit overrated, but still Kansas is the more stacked roster in this game, and I think they're going to win it.
I just have to come back and take on Hunter Dickinson. Last year, I think that R.J. Davis is going to outduel him in this game. R.J. Davis, I think, is the best player in the country right now. He should be considered as the favorite to win the Wooden Award. And Hunter Dickinson, while he was an All-American last year, was really shaky from three, shot under 40%. I believe it was 38. And as someone who's supposed to be a top caliber player in the country, that's just an unacceptable performance. He's got to be better for Kansas to win.
I'm an ACC fan, and I know why you're saying you think R.J. Davis should win the Wooden Award. I think it's because maybe he dropped 50 on you guys last year.
Well,
Well, also, Hunter Dickinson, how tall is he? 7'1".
Exactly.
I could say he makes some basketball
he's supposed
picks.
to be a shooter, right?
No. He's a big boy.
The big guy.
He's in the paint. He's going to get a double-double tonight. And watch out for my man, Zeke Mayo. Kansas is going to take control of business, and they're going to win this game by 20 points. Then the 2K24 Battleground game. My boys, the Auburn Tigers, head to Houston. I believe Houston's favored by 2 points as of right now.
I'd like to hear your take on this one first. You're an Auburn fan.
Yep. And from what I've seen from our opening night game, we're good.
You're
very
winning.
good.
You're sure
These
you're
are the
winning?
two top teams in Ken Palm. I think we can compete in March. We've got great improvement from last year. You look at our starting lineup, stacked from top to bottom. We've got guys that can shoot the threes. We can play small ball. We can play big ball. We can play either or. We've got two talented freshmen in Tahad Pettiford and Ja'Kai Howard. And this is a Houston team that likes to play a very slow Kelvin Sampson tempo. Bruce Pearl said this week, we're going to get exposed. And we know we're going to get exposed. That's what we know cutting into this year with the tough out-of-conference schedule. And we know this is going to be a game that's won in the rebound battle. It's going to be 50-50. You're going to see a very low-scoring game. And who has better big man? We've got Chennai Brew.
Well, they also have Jawan Roberts. You can't forget that.
Great. You can mention.
But so my take on it is I'm still more focused on college football as the season ending. But I did know that Auburn absolutely throttled Vermont, and Houston throttled their opponent as well. So it should be a great matchup. I'm expecting maybe like a 71-66 or like a 63-65 type game. I have no clue who's going to win. You know what? I'll give the edge to Auburn right now. How about?
And the finale, Baylor heads to Arkansas. And this is a Baylor team that's ranked preseason top 10. If they lose this game 0-2, I don't know where to go from there. I'll start with my pick. I like Arkansas in this one.
Yeah,
John Calipari.
I agree.
We don't know what to expect from this Baylor team. Believe it or not, Baylor's favored by 1.5 right now, which I don't know. I feel like
Arkansas?
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like Arkansas. Boogie Flan, the freshman, he's looked good. They get all the guys from Kentucky. Kentucky was a good team last year.
Big Z. Oh, yeah, so that's shocking to me. I think Arkansas has the better roster, per se, and they're at home, the fresh team. The only way I think Arkansas loses this game is because I guess you could say Baylor's more battle-tested because they played one game and they got their asses whooped. So Scott Drew's probably on them, which maybe is why they're favorite. So now that I think about it, I don't know if Arkansas is definitely going to win this game because Scott Drew's a good coach and he's definitely going to have them prepared, and they do have a good roster. So you know what? I'm actually going to take Baylor. Pull off maybe a bit of an upset.
Well, that's going to do it for Hoop and Helmets episode 4 for Brody Jacobson, Lucas DeVries, and Charlie Dillon. We're signing out.